In this lesson, we're going to be talking about complex fractions, and a complex fraction is going to be a combination. We're going to have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions in one problem. So a complex fraction is a fraction in which the numerator and the denominator both contains fractions. So it's a fraction within a fraction. To simplify a complex fraction means to rewrite as a single fraction with no fractions in the numerator or denominator. And this is going to be a fairly easy process. If we understood the others, it's pretty much the same thing. Step number one, we're going to create a single fraction in the numerator and the denominator. So we're going to combine any like terms, combine the numerators together, the denominators together. Step number two, we're going to set up as a division problem. Because in a complex fraction, this middle fraction bar right here simply means divide. So we're just going to set it up as a division problem, and then we're just going to, again, multiply by the reciprocal, flip and multiply. And then we're going to simplify, factor if possible. For example, now this one, the numerator, denominator, nothing has to be combined. So we're going to simply do this. We're going to rewrite this as a over 2 divided by a squared over 4. And now this is just like the other problems we've been working. That's a over 2 times, we're going to flip the second one and multiply 4 over a squared. Cross cancel. The 2 cancels with a 4, leaves you with a 1 and a 2. You have 2 a's on bottom, 1 a on top. Cancels, leaves you with a single a on bottom. So you're left with a 2 on top and an a on bottom, and that's it. Number 2. You have 6 over xy divided by 3y over 8x to the third. No like terms. Again, nothing we have to combine on top and bottom. So we're simply going to rewrite this as 6 over xy divided by 3y over 8x to the third. To divide two fractions, we're going to flip the second one and multiply. So that's going to be 8x to the third over 3y. Cross cancel anything that we can. The 6 and the 3, and this is legal because these are monomials. Leaves you with a 1 and a 2. I'm going to go ahead now and combine any x's or y's. So on top, I'm left with a 2 times 8, which is 16, and an x to the third. On bottom, I'm left with a single x and 2 y's. So now 16 combines with nothing, so leave it as 16. I have 3 x's on top and a single one on bottom. Subtract, you're left with 2 x's on top. On bottom, you have 2 y's, so therefore there's your final answer. Number 3. Again, we're fine. Nothing else combines here. So again, we're simply going to set this up as a division problem. 18p over 8p minus 2 divided by 4p squared op minus 1. Okay, we are going to factor each of these. So I'm going to factor them here before I flip and multiply. So that's going to leave you with a 4p minus 1 when you factor out a 2. And that's the only thing that's going to factor. So now let's rewrite these by flipping and multiplying. You have 18p over 2 parentheses 4p minus 1 times 4p minus 1 over 4p squared. Okay, next up, let's cancel our monomials. 18 cancels with 2, leaves you with a 9. I believe that's the only thing that will cancel. We have a p on top and 2 on bottom. Marks it out, leaves you with a single p on bottom when you subtract. Your binomials, the 4p minus 1s will cancel. And it leaves you with only a 9 on top. And on bottom, you're left with a 4 and a p. There's the simplified version. Okay, number 4. Now that we've gotten more used to the fact that this means divided by, I'm going to skip a step here. Okay, on top you have k minus 1 over k. I'm going to, as I write this down, flip and multiply. So that's going to be k squared over k squared minus 1. Let's go ahead and factor that now. You have a k minus 1, which will not factor. The k will not factor. K squared is a monomial, will not factor. You have difference of squares, which here is going to factor into conjugates. Leaves you with k times itself and 1 times itself. K minus 1s are gone. Should have done monomials first. You have a single k on bottom and 2 k's on top. When you subtract, that's going to leave you with a single k on top. So final answer, that's going to be a k on top and a k plus 1 on bottom. Number 5, flip and multiply. And as you do, you can actually factor as you're flipping. So that's going to be pull out a 7. You're left with a c plus 5 over c times, we got to flip and multiply, so you got a c squared over a c plus 5 on the other side. C plus 5, nothing factors. C and c squared. You have a c squared on top and a c on bottom. Subtract, that leaves you with 1 on top. C plus 5s cancel completely, so that leaves you with a 7c on top and nothing on bottom. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip and multiply because there's going to be a lot of factoring here. So that's going to be plus 2 over b squared plus 6b plus 8 times, we got to flip, b squared minus b minus 20 over 1. Now let's factor. B plus 2 does not factor, put it in parentheses. On bottom, 2 sets of parentheses, adds, multiplies, give you 6 and 8 would be a positive 2 and a positive 4. B squared minus b minus 20 adds, multiplies to give you a negative 1 and negative 20 would be a negative 5 and a positive 4, and then you just have the 1 on bottom. No monomials, so let's go straight for binomials. B plus 2s are gone. B plus 4s are gone. Leaves you with just b minus 5 on top and just the 1 on bottom. Number 7. Now the bottom, if you don't have a complete fraction, that is understood to be 1. So we're going to flip and multiply. That's going to be 15 minus 15r over 15r squared times 1 over 12r minus 12. Now let's do all of our factoring. Let's pull a 15 out of the top. You're left with a 1 minus r. Let me try that again. On bottom, 15r squared will not factor. Times 1 over, pull out a 12, you're left with 12 times r minus 1, so that's completely factored now. Monomials, 15 and 15r squared, the 15s can cancel. Nothing else is going to cancel monomials, so let's move on to our binomials, cancel those out. You're left with just the 1 on top and a 12 and an r squared on bottom. Number 8. Again, flip and multiply. You're going to have a 2m squared minus 2m minus 40 over 3m plus 12 times the reciprocal of the bottom, which is 9m squared plus 36m, and an m to the third minus 5m to the second. Let's see what all we can factor. Let's see. Here we can pull out a 2. So pull out a 2, and you're going to be left with m squared minus m minus 20, which is actually going to factor again. Adds, multiplies will be a negative 5 and a positive 4. So let's go ahead and do that to save ourselves a step. M minus 5, M plus 4. The bottom, we're going to factor out a 3, 3 parentheses, M plus 4. Here we're pulling out a 9 and an M. You're left with an M plus 4. And here, first step, we're going to factor out, that's m to the third minus 5m squared. We're going to factor out an m squared. And you're left with an m minus a 5, and that's all the factoring that can be done there. Now, cross-canceling or reducing, monomials, let's say the 3 and the 9 reduces to a 3 and a 1. And that's it for those. The m and m squared, you have 2 on bottom, 1 on top, leaves you with a single 1 on bottom. And that's all of your cross-canceling, except for your binomials. M plus 4s are gone, and M minus 5s are also gone. So you are left with a 2 and a 3 on top, which gives you a 6. And you're left. On bottom, you're left with just the M. So there's your final answer. Number 9. Now we're dealing with, we've got extra steps here. Step number 1, you've got to actually combine the tops and bottoms before you flip and multiply here. Before you can subtract these two, though, you need a common denominator. You have a 3 and an x, so you need an extra x over here. Multiply top and bottom by x. Multiply top and bottom here by 3. So the top turns into x squared minus 9, and the bottom is now 3x. And the whole bottom of your fraction is x minus 3 over x. So now it looks like the other problems. So you see there what we mean by if there's addition or subtraction, if you don't have a single fraction, because on bottom you have just the one fraction. You don't have a single fraction on top or bottom, you have to combine them into a single one. Now we're going to flip and multiply. You have X squared minus 9 over 3x, which I'm going to factor this one as I write it down. X plus 3 times x minus 3 over 3x times the reciprocal of the bottom, flip and multiply. I'm putting the x minus 3 in parentheses. Cross cancel your monomials first. X's are gone. Then let's move on to the binomials. X minus 3's are gone. So that leaves you with the x plus 3 on top and just the 3 on bottom. Okay, number 10. On bottom again, you need a common denominator. Pretty easy. You have a PQ. So I'm going to need a Q here. So multiply top and bottom by Q. I need a P here. So multiply top and bottom by P. So on bottom now, and you can do these separately. I'm going to come over to the side. On bottom, the top of your fraction is now a 1Q minus 1P over the bottom of your fraction now has your common denominator of PQ. So now let's put the two together. On top you had 1 over PQ. To divide these two, you're going to flip the second one, which is now down here, and you're going to multiply. So PQ over Q minus P. Look at your monomials. This is a binomial that both have to cross out in order for anything to. So here you cancel your P's, cancel your Q's. That's it. So you're left with nothing on the top but the 1, and on bottom you're left with Q minus P. Number 11. Now, if you would like to, you can start working it like this. You can do these separately. So let's come over here, and the top is finished, but the bottom fraction, 20 over all this stuff right here. Let's write it down, factor it, 20 over n minus 4, minus, leave yourself a little bit of space to find common denominator, 4 parentheses n minus 4. So this is pretty easy common denominator. You need a 4 on top and bottom. So that gives you an 80 minus a 5 over 4 times n minus 4. And we can go ahead and subtract that 80 minus 5, which is a 75. So that is the bottom part of your fraction. So now the top is 5/4. Let me do it in a different color. And we are dividing these two fractions. To divide two fractions, you're doing 5/4 times the reciprocal of the bottom, which is a 4 times n minus 4 over 75. So that's your new problem. Top divided by bottom is top times the reciprocal of the bottom. 5 cancels a 75, leaves you with a 1 and a 15. 4 cancels a 4 completely. Leaves you with just the n minus 4 on top and a 15 on bottom. Final answer. Number 12, the bottom, you're going to have to find a common denominator for, so let's do that over here. You have 1 over 1 minus w over w plus 2. Your common denominator is going to be the w plus 2, so we're going to multiply top and bottom here by the w plus 2, and if you'd like to, you could just erase the ones, because 1 times anything is just that. So your common denominator, again, is the w plus 2. On top, you have w plus 2 minus w. W's cancel and leaves you with a 2 over w plus 2. That is the bottom. So now we're going to do the top, w over w plus 2. To divide by the bottom, you're going to do times the reciprocal of the bottom, which I did in reciprocal, w plus 2 over w, or over 2, excuse me. The w plus 2's cancel out and leaves you with a w on top and a 2 on bottom. Okay, number 13. Number 13, we're going to have to work top and bottom. We have to find a common denominator for both. So therefore, let me work each out separately over here. I'll do the top in green, or red, excuse me. You have 1 over a squared minus 1 over b squared. Common denominator, multiply top and bottom here by b squared, multiply top and bottom here by a squared. Now the bottoms are the same. You have a squared, b squared on bottom. On top, you have b squared minus a squared. And if you would like to, you can actually go ahead and factor this before you combine the two. So the top is going to be difference of squares. It's going to factor into a b plus an a. And you know what? I just noticed something. You have b's first and a's second. Let's do this. Let's factor a negative 1 out of that. And again, what that does is it flip-flops these two terms, and you now have a squared minus b squared. Then you'll have a negative, and a squared minus b squared will factor into conjugates. you'll have a times itself gives you a squared, b times itself gives you b squared. And on bottom, again, you have a squared, b squared. That's the top. Now let's work the bottom, and we'll do it in green. Your bottom is 1 over b plus 1 over a. Common denominator. I need a on top and bottom, so multiply top and bottom by a. Need a b over here on top and bottom, multiply top and bottom by b. And you now have, when you combine them, an a plus a b on top, and then ab on bottom. So there's the bottom. Now back to the original problem. You've got to do top divided by bottom. The top was this. Negative a plus b times a minus b over a squared b squared. To divide, you're going to flip the bottom and multiply. So times ab over a plus b, which can be written in parentheses. The a plus b's are gone. The monomials, you have an a on top and an a squared on bottom. Mark it out, subtract it, you're left with an a on bottom. Two b's on bottom, one on top, you're left with a single b on bottom. So what's left over is a negative on top, an a minus b on top, and an a and a b on bottom. There's your final answer. Next one, again, same thing, we're going to work it separately. So on top you have, in red, m over n minus 1 over 1. You need an n on top and bottom, so let's multiply top and bottom by n, and you're done. You have m minus n over n. So that was an easy denominator. That is the top. The bottom, you have m over n plus 1 over 1. Common denominator is going to be n, multiply top and bottom by n. Final answer there is going to be an m plus n over an n. So that's going to be the bottom. So now we've got to divide the two. You have the top. To divide, you're going to flip the bottom and multiply. The n's cancel. It leaves you with an m minus n on top and an m plus n on bottom, which you would think would cancel each other out in some sort of way, but they do not. Okay, number 15. The top, you have 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4v. Very easy to get a common denominator, multiply top and bottom by v. And your top is now a v plus a 1 over 4v. There's the top of your fraction. The bottom of your fraction, you have a 1 over v plus a 1 over 4. So you need a 4 here, so multiply top and bottom by 4. You need a v over here, so multiply top and bottom by v. You now have on top a 4 plus a v, which we're going to write as v plus 4 just because it looks better, and then the 4v on bottom. So there is the bottom of your fraction. Now let's combine the two by dividing. The top divided by bottom will be top. To divide, you're going to flip and multiply the bottom. So you now have a 4v over v plus 4 on the bottom. These are binomials, so you can put them in fraction or parentheses. 4v and 4v completely cancel each other out and leave you with a v plus 1 on top and a v plus 4 on bottom. And the last one, number 16. This one looks horrible. Let's come down here somewhere and let's factor everything. You have an a squared over a plus 3. Leave a little bit of space for a common denominator there. Plus, you have an a squared over, factor out the 5, and you have an a plus 3. So not as bad as it looks. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 5. It doesn't matter if you put it first or last. And you can combine the tops now. You have 5a squared plus a squared gives you 6a squared over 5 parentheses a plus 3. And nothing reduces there. We're just going to leave that as is. So there's the top. The bottom, we'll write just right here above it. Well, we'll write it below it just so it makes more sense. You have a over a plus 3, put it in parentheses, plus 1 over 5. So you have a 5 here, so you need a 5 here, so let's multiply top and bottom by 5. That'll be easy. And let's multiply top and bottom by the a plus 3. Now the bottoms are the same, and we can combine them. So the bottoms are 5 parentheses a plus 3. On top you have 5a plus 1a plus 3, which gives you a 6a plus 3 over 5 parentheses a plus 3. The top can be factored. Let's pull out a 3. You're left with a 2a plus 1 over 5 parentheses a plus 3. Now, we've got to divide the 2 because, again, the problem says the top divided by the bottom. So let's take the top, which was 6a squared over 5 parentheses a plus 3. To divide, you're going to flip and multiply by the bottom, which is now 5 parentheses a plus 3 on top, and 3 times 2a plus 1 on bottom. Let's cross cancel. The 5s are gone. The 6 and the 3 leaves you with a 1 and a 2. The a squared stay put. The a plus 3s are gone, and it leaves you with a 2 and an a squared on top. And it leaves you with a 2a plus 1 on bottom.